Antarctica, one of the few remaining places on Earth untouched by plastic pollution. In contrast, many of the world's shores and waterways look like this, buried in layers of plastic pollution. Join us as we meet people from around the world who spend their lives fighting this global epidemic. Plastic hasn't always been a problem. Let's start at the beginning.
Originally a cheap, plentiful, and man-made substitute for ivory, celluloid, one of the earliest of plastics, made its way into the manufacture of novelties, cosmetic containers and cockpit housings, parachutes and refrigerators, radios and razors, all contain plastics.
The invention of plastic in 1907 was revolutionary and brought the world great hope and excitement.
Plastic. Plastic.
By the 1970s, plastic was being mass-produced on a global scale. It became a modern convenience that was cheap and easy to produce. Most of these plastic bags and containers can be manufactured for pennies on the dollar. Because they are so inexpensive, their use has grown tremendously. At first, plastic was a substance that made life easier. However, today's worldwide consumption of plastic has created a global crisis.
Auténticas islas de plástico.
Wajah Indonesia sebagai penyumbang sampah plastik terbesar kedua di dunia.
В России могут полностью запретить пластиковые пакеты с таким предложением.
Una enorme marea de plásticos y basura.
Plastik üretimi için yeterli ham madde bulamayan.
These are places of total pollution.
Because plastics are everywhere. It's in our food, we are drinking it, and we even breathe plastic. So
it takes 400 years to break down, and sadly in the process of breaking down, it breaks down into little microplastic particles.
There are more than 150 million tons of plastic in the ocean.
Plastic is just like a worldwide problem today.
We'll now take a look at our plastic world and hear firsthand accounts of how this problem has reached epidemic proportions.
Các bác sống vì rác thôi mà. Sống vì ô nhiễm nhiều nó khổ tâm lắm. Các con vẫn chơi hàng ngày.
Children in this area of Vietnam consider this contaminated water their playground, regardless of its health risks.
Mỗi lần em chơi ngoài biển, em rất thích ạ.
Con chơi thì con có thấy nó bị ô nhiễm, nó bị hôi không?
Có ạ, nhưng em vẫn muốn chơi ạ.
In Greece, discarded life vests and plastic trash litter the beaches. This is the waste of thousands of refugees who are fleeing hardship, war, and strife in their own countries.
When I see plastic on a beach, I really feel like I'm witnessing a crime against nature. And when I first came to Lesvos and I saw the life vests discarded, I was working in the refugee camps with these desperate people who have traveled there. If you imagine more than 500,000 people coming to this island on boats, in overcrowded, sinking boats, in life vests that were many times not even regulation life vests. Over 600,000 refugees have landed on this one small island in Greece, floated and ferried across the ocean on waves of plastic. So all these life vests are also made of plastic.
Here on the east coast of the United States, fragile ecosystems are being threatened from plastic wastes of all kinds.
I don't know where it's coming from, but it seems to all just gather up here, which makes sense because marshes are they are natural filtration systems. So they're already designed to capture and filter debris. They're just meant to capture and filter organic and natural debris, not this stuff. Over there was just a mountain, and there's still so much more that's here. And it's a tough spot because do I want to bring in a team of people and have them all stomping around in this ecosystem? I don't know about that.
In general, coastal Georgia is very rural, undeveloped. We're lucky in the way that most of our barrier islands, there's 14 of them, only 4 are accessible by car. So we're in a uniquely biodiverse area. However, because of smaller populations and smaller cities, sometimes management and government struggles a bit. It is not uncommon to see litter here. We are a coastal city, so it's a major problem because whatever blows around here on our city streets winds up in our waterways, which obviously then impacts our oceans. Savannah has a big problem with plastic litter, and we're just now addressing it more publicly through government and social media platforms, and I'm hopeful that we can create some change because you cannot walk down a city street of Savannah without seeing plastic pollution.
Marine debris worldwide, 90% of it is plastic. So it is definitely the most prevalent piece of marine debris that we find, especially here in Maui. We did a study in 2016 to find where all that marine debris exactly is accumulating here on the island. And we found out it's over towards the towns called Wailuku area, and that's because of the subtropical gyre that kind of swirls everything around, and then the trade winds we get that just push it straight on shore in that very specific area. Out of that debris, we found out 90% of it is plastics, just like we're seeing worldwide.
In the North Pacific, we have an oceanic gyre that collects a lot of marine debris, most of it plastic. Pretty much plastic is in almost everything. And when I was born, it wasn't. So I've been around long enough to see that we are now fully dependent on plastics. So we've just a very short period of time, just 50-something years, we've crossed over to being completely dependent on plastics. And that's a very short period of time.
I don't think that in general people see the urgency, which is a shame because it's an impending monstrous problem that we've got.
So we need to find alternatives, and we need to stop being dependent on plastics. So all of us can be part of the solution.
It's one of our favorite items. There are a couple of dedicated Instagram accounts that just catalog these. It got significantly worse the past couple of years with our larger hurricanes, Matthew and Irma. So I think it's also larger storms. I don't think it has to be a flat-out hurricane for this stuff to get washed in. But they said they saw a dramatic rise after those 2 hurricane seasons. So if the hurricanes keep getting worse and keep getting stronger, then presumably more stuff in the marshes. But I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know if it's coming from some of the houses that are right on the marsh that maybe people evacuate for the hurricanes, and it would not be my first thing on the list if I were evacuating, like the recycling bins. You know, we have to strap down the recycling bins. I would forget that. First you see problems like this and you think, well, obviously if it's a problem, if it's this evident, then nobody's doing anything, but people are doing something.
California has a large coastal area where inland waterways flow into the ocean. All too often, these waterways carry waste into the once pristine beaches.
Hi, my name is Soraya Simi. I am a recent graduate of USC's film school here in Los Angeles. The issue of plastic pollution is one that angers me and motivates me a lot because as someone who spends a significant amount of my time outside in wild places, it's really discouraging to see how much trash and plastic there is everywhere. My short film, First Flush, is a 1-minute examination of how plastic gets from inner city LA out into the ocean. Last summer, we had actually gone the longest period of time in, I think, over a decade without rain. When it did finally rain, I actually skipped all my classes that day and I drove as far east as I could, and I got to a point in the LA River where I just started tracking the flow downward. And so I drove all the way down, was following trash, and then I got to Manhattan Beach where the river mouths open up, and that's the outlet into the ocean. By the time I got to the beach, most of it had already washed into the ocean. So there was a very short window of time to even consider grabbing all the plastic that runs off. What I hope my video accomplishes is maybe it helps people connect the dots that one action you do somewhere, even if it's dissociated from, let's say, the ocean or a different part of the world, or so be it, that action symbolically is going to ripple down and have an effect elsewhere.
On the East Coast of the United States, 2 other filmmakers are telling their story of plastic pollution through music and technology.
My name's Dan Agar, and I'm a director and producer of the movie Down to the Plastic Ocean, and starring Scooby-Doo.
I'm Kathy Curbo. I'm from Athens, Georgia, and I'm the executive producer. I had seen a plastic toy in the river, and I thought that would be a good way to demonstrate how plastic trash works its way from a non-coastal area to the coast. And then Danny had the idea of a scuba diving toy.
We have generated awareness, and more people are involved in that. Well, Scooby, we were shooting it with 360 cameras, so it gets you down to the point of level where he is. And if you watch the movie with VR glasses or watch it as a 360 movie, you're actually in the river going down with him. So it's more of an immersive experience.
We wanted to be creative with it, with new technology and music.
And it was just a lot of I didn't know exactly how the journey would go and where it would take us. And we just kind of, just out of curiosity, kind of followed the route from Athens to creeks, to the river, to the ocean. And trash it was everywhere we went, everywhere we filmed. I mean, especially in the waterways, it's just like, it's worse at the ocean.
Most people that don't live by the coast don't think it's their problem.
Because we don't see the problem as much. When it's raining, you don't realize how much it affects things downstream and how a global impact it can have.
Down in the plastic ocean, you gave your life for me.
I decided I needed to make something out of the life vests because they were the symbol of this island now. They were all literally left on the beaches as the people landed because, I mean, they just had such a harrowing journey to get there. When you think about a life vest, it's something that saves you in the water. And so, I was going to use the covering, and I had this idea to make a flag, like a flag for this new nation of refugees, which would mean this could be a home, and it's a portable monument. It's about survival. It's about making a new place. It's about hope. One of the most amazing things that I encountered on Lesbos, there's a woman named Martina she's a Greek designer. They've started a little social enterprise called Safe Passage, and they design these beautiful, beautiful bags out of the life vests.
This is our shopping bag. It's a new one. Voila, another, the same. Now we have a combination of fabric and life jacket.
And I'm helping them sell them in the United States so that they can make money and grow their project.
This job gave me some a good opportunity to make my life better, and I can say save my life, because I left Morio camp, I came in Mussolini, I rented a house. Right now I have a normal life, and I'm so happy because of this.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see some people like Emmy, like Makina, like everyone that are working with Lesbos Solidarity here. They are great people we cannot see everywhere like them.
No, it's true.
Yeah, and I'm so happy I'm friends with them and I meet them here.
While we have remade the world in plastic, with this creativity and this invention, Lesbos Solidarity is making the safe passage bags, which is remaking the trauma of this journey into something new.
I came here in Lesbos as a refugee, as an asylum seeker, because I lost my home and some of my relatives back in Afghanistan. And I didn't have a chance to save them, but here I have a chance to save my bigger home and my bigger family, humanity and Earth.
Hacerlo hay que hacerlo sin lástima, eso.
No, ese es shampoo, vamos a ver. Ahora.
Oh,
man. Show me, please. I want to.
Oh my God.
Plastics are terrible for animals in so many ways. First of all, they can just get physically entangled, and it can cause them to get trapped and drown, or it can cut into their necks as they grow and cause them to die that way, choke them to death. It can also get wrapped around sea turtles and fish and whales. Then the other way it kills them is by simple ingestion, and it can just cause blockage and kill them that way, or it can prevent them from being nourished. It can fill up their stomach so they don't feel like eating. But mainly the way it kills them when they ingest it is it causes them to be dehydrated, because a lot of animals are adapted for getting their fluids in the ocean from their prey. So without the prey and just having plastics, they're not getting fluids and they're actually dying of dehydration. And then worst of all, for many of us, it's what's called biomagnifying in our food web. Small animals eat it, big animals eat them, and then guess what animal eats them? Us.
What you don't know can't hurt you? I don't think so. You know, you find out later on that there are problems with things you've been eating or behaviors that you've been doing that you thought were safe, and they turn out that they're not, and they have long-term implications. When we go out on the beach to do a beach cleanup, it's amazing because you first look at the beach and you don't see like a big bottle or bottle caps, but then when you look closely, you start seeing these little bits of microplastic. And I know recently when I was doing a beach cleanup, I just started picking, and you're picking, and you're coming up with all these little tiny pieces. And they're being incorporated into the sand. They're being beaten by the wave action and the sand action and being turned into plastic sand. We have a very active fishery here, local fishery. Everybody here eats a lot of fish, clams, shellfish, everything. And we don't know how much plastic we're ingesting. We have no idea.
This has been shown to be the case in different parts of the world. Your average mussel may have something like 16 to 20 microplastic fibers within it. So your consumer goes out there, cooks it, eats that mussel, is going to ingest those sorts of microfibers into their bodies. Then what happens to it at that point, we don't know. Microfibers are small enough that obviously they're not going to get stuck in our stomachs like regular plastics do in birds and turtles and so on. But what they carry with them, what sort of toxins they might have with them, we don't know. The really small microplastics can not only get into your intestines and your guts and so on, but they can actually pass through cell walls and end up within your body itself. Again, this is a new field. We don't understand a lot of these interactions, so some of this stuff that comes out is fairly startling.
As Scooby inches closer to the Atlantic Ocean, We traveled to Kenya to see how people there are dealing with plastic pollution. After seeing so much discarded plastic littering the coastline of their town, the people of Lamu came up with an ingenious idea to gather nearly 10 tons of plastic waste and turn it into the different parts of a ship.
A dhow is a traditional sailing boat here in Lamu. They used to go to Arabia, to India in the time before. Now we are doing a recycled plastic dhow. By making this dhow out of plastic, we are saving also the forest. And these are planks, also made of recycled plastic.
This is how they transform the plastic waste. First, the waste is collected and shredded. Then it's melted and extruded into solid tubes. From there, the pliable material is formed into the various components that will be used to construct the dhow. People of all ages gather on the shore to watch the maiden voyage of the plastic vessel and to celebrate this unique transformation of waste into a useful part of their culture.
So we are looking for a solution of how can we find to reduce as much as possible, and we are happy that some country like in Kenya try to ban plastic bags, and we hope many countries will follow the same route, and eventually everybody in the world try to minimize, and we have many alternatives. We have the solution in fact. So this is a message. We need it to be delivered to everybody in this planet.
I think that the grassroots level is very effective, especially with the reluctance of the federal government and actually the scaling back of the EPA and a lot of the environmental programs. I think that it's really fueled the grassroots effort. People, they really want to do something, and they want to know how they can do something and how they can be effective at it.
Savannah has a large number of individual activists and groups, and they do a good amount of collaboration with each other. It's not like anti-plastic activists want people to lose jobs or anything, but there has to be a way to have a thriving environment and a thriving economy at the same time.
We do cleanups every Saturday morning. We go to a different spot in Savannah each week. So we like to partner with residents in those neighborhoods, and sometimes we partner with neighborhood associations. We'll work with the neighborhoods to get their residents out. We really want it to be like a taking pride in where you live and bringing people together to make a change together.
We have a big problem in Savannah. I'm not sure if other cities face this, but there are cigars that people buy, and they have plastic filter tips. Those are not recyclable. And the other thing we have a big problem with are the little liquor bottles. It's just amazing how many we pick up of those as well, along with other drink containers.
Cigarette butts are probably the biggest offender that we see on a regular basis. We've actually been collecting them since August, and we have 2 bins full of cigarette butts that we're saving to send to TerraCycle, which they have a cigarette butt recycling program. So we feel good that we can get those butts off the street and out of our waterways and be able to actually get them recycled.
One of the things that I guess has been frustrating to me in discussion of a lot of environmental issues is that we don't have enough faith in humans' capacity to solve problems. You know, we went to the moon in less than 10 years because we basically got a directive from President Kennedy to do so. And nobody said, well, we can't do that. That's impossible. That's going to be way too hard and way too expensive and so on. And yet nowadays it seems like that's the first answer to every type of plea that we need to do something about this. And personally, I think that we can. And there are a lot of really smart people out there working on this problem of plastics pollution from a lot of different angles.
Do it.
We come here on the 4th Sunday of every month, at least, and do a marine debris cleanup / research project to try to see what comes ashore here.
For the last 15 years, we've been working on a regular basis to clean up marine debris in the places here in Hawaii that collect the most of it.
This is actually a pretty important, potentially, habitat for a lot of endangered species like sea turtles and monk seals and marine mammals, and this whole area is pretty special culturally as well. So we just want to really kind of restore it and take care of it for the animals. We started our first cleanup back in about 2007, and then we've been starting our 4th Sunday of every month cleanups in July of 2012. And so come here every month at least and try to malama the area. You know, we're lucky here we have the ability to recycle. We have the ability to throw away our trash and it goes to the proper place. But most countries don't have that set up, so they don't have a choice but to throw their trash and rubbish on the ground or whatnot, and that gets in the waterways and it just ends up in the ocean.
The plastic problem, for a period of time it seemed like things were better, but of late we're finding that they're not. They're actually getting worse. We put on 2 beach cleanups every month, and we have anywhere from 300 to 600 people show up to volunteer to take trash off the beach. And the real tragedy is the following month the trash is back, and it's just kind of a continuous cycle. We're treating a symptom, not the cause. And until we get to the point where we can wrap our brains around solutions to the cause, we're going to be picking up trash and plastics and styrofoam and everything else.
We're actually causing ourselves to be buried in plastic. We as individuals can stop using single-use plastics. We have to think about the way we do things, the way we live, stop throwing things away. But we also need to call into account all of our corporations and all of the big businesses and the government agencies.
It's, I think, a combination of consumer and businesses. I don't think you can put all the blame on the consumer, and I don't think you can put all of it on the businesses who manufacture it. It's a shared responsibility. So one thing I would really like to see is for Savannah businesses to stop giving out styrofoam. No styrofoam takeout cups, no styrofoam takeout containers. They should be banned all across Georgia and the world. I don't know if there's any such argument for styrofoam. As far as I know, there's really no upside to using this stuff. It's just terrible.
Something that we didn't know, that styrofoam is recyclable. They're food trays that they put in junior high schools and high schools. At every door have a large cardboard container lined with plastic, and the kids put in their basically styrofoam food trays. Then when the thing is full, the top is taped and they're shipped to the manufacturer. And they take them out, they have a separate facility, they steam clean, get all the food and ketchup and everything off, and then they basically run them on a conveyor belt into an oven, and they have a series of ovens. And by the time they go through these ovens, it comes out almost like what we think of a block of ice. Then they're stacked on pallets, and they're taken from Corona to another manufacturer in Ontario, and they're remelted and extruded into beautiful, fancy picture frames. And so there is a market, and the problem now is there's not enough recyclable styrofoam for the demand. And so you would think there's an opportunity there.
We're now reaching the end of Scooby's journey to the Atlantic Ocean. A plastic toy tossed in the waterways by two filmmakers, Scooby has shown us how humans have chosen to treat our environment.
I don't want to shortchange anybody's work though. The local bands, citywide, countywide, statewide, are effective as well. They're part of the step where you have all levels of players working together. But it's really not until nations kind of get involved in this that you can eliminate mass generation of plastics.
In 2017, Kenya joined many other African nations in confronting the plastic problem. Its government passed a total ban on plastic bag usage. Those found using plastic bags were subject to fines of more than $500 or 1 year in jail. Selling or distributing plastic bags would result in a maximum fine of $40,000 or up to 4 years imprisonment. This ban, along with major cleanup efforts, has resulted in a significant reduction in plastic waste.
The key is not to bury one's head in the sand, to realize that there is a problem, that we have the capacity to solve it, and that we will solve it. It's a matter of just amount of effort and time that goes into it. But we got ourselves into this mess. We can get ourselves out of this mess.
One area of the world where plastic has not become an overwhelming problem is the continent of Antarctica. Dr. Stuart Jeffries is a research scientist from Georgia State University whose work often brings him to Antarctica.
I think it was like, I could not believe how incredible the place was, how beautiful it was, untouched, essentially. I actually got, in fact, I've got chills now just talking about it. You get off and you're almost lost for words. It's just an incredible experience. We go down to Antarctica because we do a study of the sun. In fact, we're using seismology to actually look at the interior structure of the sun. And we go to South Pole because during the austral summer, the sun is above the horizon 24 hours a day for weeks on a time. So this lets us make measurements that we couldn't otherwise make.
Dr. Stuart Jeffries and other scientists are aware of what's happening throughout the world regarding pollution, and they are taking measures to safeguard Antarctica.
Basically, everything that comes in has to go out, and we're very, very careful about recycling everything and separating out food and different types of waste products, and so they can be shipped back to the mainland. Also, if we have vehicles down there that use gasoline, and if there's any spills of gasoline, even the smallest amount, then it's important that you write a report, fill a report out, clean up the site where the accident happened, store it in appropriate cans so that it can be removed from the continent. It's taken really seriously down there about keeping things, about not changing the environment. It's really refreshing, actually. South Pole's a great place. Everybody pulls together. It's an amazing atmosphere, and there's just no question that you don't do this down there. It's part of the culture. It's well known that we have to do all of these things. And I guess if somebody didn't do it, then it'd be a pretty serious offense. In fact, I'm fairly sure that if you were to have a spill and not report it, that you could well be kicked off the ice for it. But I've never seen that happen because everybody just understands that that's our job, to keep it pristine and to take care of what we do. It would be fantastic if we could do something like that, and maybe with this realization that we're running into a serious problem in our planet, maybe that'll be what brings people together and unites them.
Have we truly come to this realization, or will humans continue to suffer from the long-term effects of our plastic world?